Welcome to the Michael Smith Architect Podcast with your host, Michael Smith.
Hi, this is Mike Smith, and welcome to Michael Smith Architect Podcast, episode number 10. We are climbing up there. And I'll tell you, this episode we have here is fantastic. I got the chance to interview a very good friend of mine, Josh Gillow, who is a outdoor designer and contractor in Pennsylvania. Yes, I know that's not in California, but we're trying to branch out here a little bit. And he spends a lot of time with clients designing and working on their outdoor spaces. And I found it really interesting because I've known him for several years, and we've kind of talked about his projects, but never did I hear him say an architect. And it seems that he's really brought in after the project is done, if it is a new construction, or obviously after if it's an existing home and such, but never working directly with the architect. And we kind of talk about that a little bit, and I put together my my thoughts on maybe why that is happening and such. So why don't we go to that right now? And here's my interview with Josh. Welcome, everyone. I am so excited to have someone I consider a very good friend, Josh. I met him, 3 years ago? We were at a leadership training camp, and I was there by myself, and I latched onto this guy, and he was as crazy as I was in terms of being on time, being early. And so we were always holding ourselves accountable on that. We've gone to a couple other things together. We've always kept in contact, and now we're in a mastermind group. He does designs and constructs outdoor living spaces, correct?
Correct.
That's right? Okay. And at the end, he's going to tell us about a new venture that he's working on, kind of leveraging his experience and such in running a business for 20 years. Is it about that long? Uh-oh, I lost him. He didn't like what I said.
It started when I was 3, so what are you going to do?
I lost you there for a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, why don't you, that's great. We'll keep that in. Let's just go on from there. Hey, Josh, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself or tell our audience a little bit about yourself and your company.
Yeah, so you're right, Mike. We met about 3 years ago. We had a great time, and I think we connected because of the fact that we both are kind of type A's when it comes to being on time, and that we are, super focused on, delivering what we talk about. We don't just talk shit; we actually do it. That's one major thing, and so we've been bonded together from that for the last 3 years. It's been great. But yeah, as far as my business, I started out when I was, like I said, I started right around when I was 5 years old. I really have to blame my mom for it all. It really is. It's all her fault because she started the garden center when I was 5, and I grew up in that model. And I'd go around around the neighboring fields and pick up rocks, and I'd bring them out to her customers and try to sell them for a couple of pennies. And I would go around and pot up, wild tiger lilies along the road and sell them for $1. I'm like, holy shit, I'm making some money here. This is great. So the next thing I started selling sweet corn, all that kind of stuff. So it's just kind of in my nature. I learned how to sell just in the streets, if you will, at the garden center. Once I graduated high school, I decided that I wanted to get more into the design and construction of outdoor living spaces because I went to school to become an architect, got a degree, but decided that I wanted to be drawing houses forever. So I decided to merge the two together, and that was 24 years ago now. And I was with the family company. We started for 15 years doing design and construction of outdoor living spaces, and then 8 years ago, I started to become more focused and realized that I wanted to be doing more of the design and the management more than the design and dealing with employees and trucks and crap like that. So just wanted to get that out of my world and focus on the core passion that I had. So Yeah. And now we're here. So I've been doing that 8 years now and loving every minute of it.
Awesome. Well, that's great. So you have you do both design and construction. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your process? And why don't we go? Let's give two versions: how it was prior to COVID-19, and how, if any, changes are occurring during this this quarantine.
Absolutely. No, that's a good question. So we haven't been affected a tremendous amount here in Pennsylvania. We've been deemed essential from the beginning. So we've been able to continue business as usual, with some restrictions, of course, but we work a lot with the Amish community. So they do a ton of our work, and they are very open-minded when it comes to things like this. So they're always working. They're incredible human beings to work with. But as far as process goes, we're very experience-driven here at MasterPlan. The goal here is to have the client have an incredible experience from the very beginning, from that first phone call all the way through when they're telling their friends about us because they become raving fans. So that's the goal. We've created tons of processes in the within the business to make sure that happens, and to make sure that we can deliver that experience over and over and over again, and not just have it be something that happened once and it was kind of cool, right? Because when their friends call and want that same experience and they don't get it, then they're not going to be very happy and not going to be telling their friends. So very process driven that way. We design everything in three-dimensional full color models. We work with our ideal clients to do that. And then once that design is completed, we offer them a budget study, which gives them a sense of what costs look like very early in our process. That's one of our big pieces here, because most of the people in our world, they design something that looks great. They get the client excited, probably some revisions, it's perfect. And then they slam them with a price at the end, right? And then the next thing you know, they're like, yeah, no. It's a lot of wasted time, in my opinion, right? You know how it is, Mike, right?
It's not like I'm doing that on purpose, because that does come up a lot. I'm trying to give a price, but I'm not swinging a hammer. So I'm trying to do it with a big old fat crayon and give them a wide range and say, hey, it's more up here. But, most clients are if you give them a range, they go, oh, the lower end is what they hear. Yes. And what I'm thinking is the upper end. So, yeah, I understand that completely. But sorry, go ahead.
No worries. You actually bring up a very interesting point, because we've had that same situation over here at MasterPlan, where we would give them a budget study that would be maybe 10 or 20% variable, but delta between top and bottom. And they would only see the bottom number. Majority of people would not see the top number. And I said, guys, that's why we give you a range, because we know it'll fall somewhere in there. But when they only see the bottom number, we said, man, we gotta fix that.
Yeah.
So we actually became much more detailed in our numbers in order to become much more accurate in the very, very beginning. Because we don't want to bust trust with clients, right? You don't want to go through and spend all this time and build this relationship and really have them fall in love with an idea, all to become, very unhappy at the end because they feel like you're trying to take advantage of them. That's just a huge waste of everybody's time. So, those numbers being accurate and as tight as they can be, we're down to a 10% delta now, and a target's a 5% delta. So that's in the design process, and we don't swing hammers either.
Okay, so how do you do? Do you know your numbers so well that when you drop in a planter or a deck or something like that, that you have only that 10%?
Yeah, so that's exactly what we do. So we have our numbers. We spend an enormous amount of time building what we call our budget study system. And it's an entire, it's online. It's what it is. It's all done. But I go out to all my partners. We've been very blessed with incredible partners that we've worked with for many years. And I go out and say, look, 90% of what we do over and over and over again. So we can nail down what a cost structure looks like to do, this much, or per square foot or per lineal foot or whatever it might be for certain things, right? So we get that nailed down to a point where when we're doing fence around a pool, or a standard pool is X, Y, Y price range, like those kinds of things, right? Okay. Then there's also a ton of custom stuff that we do that lasts us to say 10%. What we'll do each project is we reach out to our partners, and we have this open agreement that they will give us we'll call it a ballpark price right in the beginning. They look at it and say, okay, that should cost you between $25,000 and $28,000 for that, whatever it might be, right? So then we'll put those numbers into our numbers so that they're actually, we tell them, they know this. These are the numbers that clients are seeing. So when they're preparing themselves for eventually having to bid that project too, and actually fall within those numbers.
Yeah.
So that's all part of it. It's all an understanding between having the right partners is critical in this position. Okay. So that really helps us get those numbers very fine-tuned. And our goal is to land on the low side. We're below the low side, right?
Yeah.
Because a client that you come back to and said you had a budget of $100,000, you come back with a $95,000 option, exactly what they want. They feel like there's trust because you could have taken them for the last 5, right? You could have marked that project up for another 5 and nobody would have ever known.
Exactly.
But when you bring those numbers in lower, they're like, wow, I can trust this person. You immediately get trust because it's the right thing to do, right?
That's okay. So are you a general contractor when it comes to the construction side?
We are, yeah. We're designing general contractors.
Okay.
So once we design the clients, most of them hop on board with us to bring the idea to life. And then we manage the trades. We manage the specialists, as I call them. I never use the word subcontractor. That's dirty and icky and nasty. So we say, all our partners are specialists that we work with. And then we bring the project to life. That's what our ideal client wants. They don't want to be finding the talent. They don't want to be doing any of that stuff. True. So we manage all that for them. We manage all the monies. We manage all of that for them.
Okay. Oh, great. So I assume there's a permitting process in your area, correct?
Absolutely.
So what is that process in your area? And you're in, I don't know if we said, but you're in Pennsylvania.
Correct. Right.
Okay. And so how does the permitting process go in Pennsylvania?
It sucks as always.
I was waiting, is it as bad as California? I doubt it is, but.
Probably not. But, basic permits are pretty easy, especially during COVID right now. We're finding that people are getting their permits through quick, and we're actually incentivizing our clients to get them to start the process. They might not want to bite off the big ticket price right now or invest the big slug now, but let's get ourselves prepared. Most permits last 6 months to a year, as far as their viability. So why not get that work done now? This way, in a few months from now, when things are balanced more out, people get a better sense of what's coming. They can say, go, and we're ready, right? So we can do that because what's happening right now is we're getting permits through faster than we've ever seen them get through because there's not as much of a backlog in Pennsylvania, at least, most townships. So with that being the case, we get them through faster. That's great. And I tell clients, look, you can wait until after this blows over, after things kind of normalize. We know they're not going back to normal, right? But to normalize, and there's going to be a gigantic onslaught of people running into the township trying to get permits. And they're going to be over inundated. It's going to take you months instead of weeks. So why not get it done now? So that works out great. Now, some of the struggles we've run into now, as far as how things are changing, it's probably because of you guys in California. It's this whole stormwater shit we got to deal with now, right?
Oh yeah! Wow, that is such a huge thing.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge, right? And
it adds 4 pages of just templates onto my plans.
I could see that. Yeah. It adds a whole nother level of gray hair to me too. But anyway, the townships have been interesting with that. Everyone is adapting and adopting new regulations. It seems daily. And you're not doing a 5-year plan anymore. It's a 100-year, and it's crazy, And the thing is that we had a choice a couple of years ago when we started coming down. Either we're going to sit back and bitch about it all the time and say, you know what? Oh shit, another one of these things. I got to do this. I can't believe this. I don't want to do this. Or we're going to become the best firm around that knows exactly how to do this. Yeah. We have the best partners. We have the best solutions. We know I think what our clients do and don't want to see with the final result. So why not become that source? Why not embrace it? This is not going away. This is not something that's going to just disappear in a few years. It's only going to become more crazy and more good. So let's become pros at this. And the cool part is, if you do it right, it's invisible. And if you do it right, it's not that expensive, but it's also another option as a business owner, as another option for upsell, right? Let's think about this.
Sure.
You're solving a problem for your client. There's value there. They don't want to go out and find engineers. They don't want to have to figure out a system. They don't want to end up with a retention pond like they saw in front of Walmart in front of their house.
Yeah.
And if you let people go on their own ways, that is exactly what will happen.
Yeah.
So we bring that value to the table as well, and we embrace it instead of trying to push it away. I don't love it, but we embrace it.
Yeah. So on your, what we're finding, at least when we're submitting plans, we've got 2 different, I have a county jurisdiction and I have city. And in the county, the city wants us to mail in plans only through the post office, and then they sit for a day. While the county has been a little more forward thinking, we're now online submitting plans and such. How is that? are you still doing paper, or are you doing digital for permit submittals?
It's actually a little of both. Usually everything has to be hard copy, right? They want 27 copies of everything. I'm being crazy, but they want insane amounts of copies, all of it going to the township building. They disperse it. I don't know what they do with that, but they do something with it, right? And but that's still, some of the townships are still requiring that. But others are saying, look, digital's fine. Nobody's in the office with COVID, so send it over. We'll make this work, and then send in the other stuff afterwards so we can keep things moving forward. They're all trying to figure it out too. But I see that's one big positive coming out of COVID is it's going to take some of those sluggish systems, call anything government, right? Sluggish systems, and force them into the 21st century. And they're going to have to figure out ways to do this, or they're going to end up with major, bottlenecks in their process. So that's the one cool part about it.
Absolutely. I'm so glad that we're still, the process is changing from week to week on how you submit your plans and such. But it's so awesome to be sitting here at night going, instead of going, hey, I got to send my prints out to be done and then carry, probably about 50 pounds worth of drawings and prints and copies. Now it's just a button, and I can do it at midnight if that's when I finish up. So that's the one great thing that I look at. I said, okay, we forced them into the 21st century.
It's true.
Okay, so what do you see homeowners wanting most in their backyard?
Let's see. That changes over time, but there's one trend, if you will, or one change that's coming that I don't think is going to ease up anytime soon, and that's comfort. They want to be comfortable outside, right? They want to go outside. They want to feel good, reconnect with nature, get the energy, get the sunlight. They want to get all of that, but they don't want to go outside and be in any way inconvenienced, right? So outdoor living spaces are evolving to become, let's just say from the furniture side of things, you're getting a ton of new fabrics. You're getting a ton of new materials that are low maintenance that feel nice, like your inside sofa feels the same way outside now. You're dealing with tons of features that we're adding into spaces, like bromic directional heaters, infrared heating outside, especially in roof systems, to allow for people to come out and enjoy their systems and their outdoor living spaces much longer and much deeper, especially in Pennsylvania. It gets cold as hell here in the winter, so people really want to. I'm not gonna hear you laugh out there in California. Anyway, but it gets cold as hell out here, and the next thing you know, people aren't using their spaces, so they find more value in investing in a space if they can get more time in. So, having a directional heating, or having sound systems outside, having these creature comforts. They want to be outside, they want to cook, they want to do that, but they don't want to have to put a lot of effort into it. So, and they want it to feel like an extension of their home, like their favorite room of their house. That's always our goal, is to create their favorite room of their house. But again, if you've got to walk up and down 37 steps to get in from the first floor level to the patio, you're not going to do it. Come on. At the end of the day, subconsciously, you look at it and you're like, screw that. I'm going to stay inside and eat Cheetos. Why the hell would I go outside? So having seamless transitions inside and out of the house, with either deck structure or some kind of elevated space, has been very popular because people really feel like they can connect with it any day, no matter how they feel. And we also think about it, if you have toddlers running around the house, think about it. As a parent, how often are you policing those steps? If there's steps out the back door, you're constantly there. You have friends over, you have a party, you're constantly standing there trying to have adult conversation next to the steps because your 2-year-old's trying to go up and down them 50 times. Where if it was a seamless transition, you're walking from the first floor right out to that deck surface, there's none of that. Right? And then you can have a party, and then the kids can run around, the parents can run around, they can finally get the time that they need to have adult conversation. They can do it without the stress of thinking their kids in some kind of peril. Also, people are aging in place. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but the concept of aging in place, if you have all these steps and these obstacles in place, when somebody comes to the house to either look at it to buy or whatever it might be, they might look at it and be like, you know what? No, because if I want to get to the backyard, I practically have to sign up for that. Like I have to sign a waiver to go into my own backyard because I got all these steps to walk up and down. Seamless transition, you don't got that problem. You can walk directly out there. You can be 102 and still engage that space comfortably. So there's lots of that, but it's more about the comfort and the thought process that goes into design. Just a slab of concrete in the backyard just isn't cutting it anymore. We want to design spaces that fit furniture for them. We start with a furniture first focus to make sure all your furniture fits perfectly in the space. You're not moving things or walking around things or kicking shit because it's in the way, right? So there's easy ways to do that. It just requires the planning. So I would say those are the biggest things right now. And people also want the space to be reflective of their personality. If they have more of a taste, if you will, a little more eclectic, they want some more eclectic stuff. They want more of a modern feel. They want more of a farmhouse feel, whatever it might be. But there's a lot of theming that goes on in these spaces now, and they're really tied into that HGTV mantra, if you will, of everything kind of matching and being. But at the end of the day, it's really important to stay focused on that personality side.
Okay, well, that's great. So one of the things that I think that's actually going to come out of this COVID-19 thing is people are realizing I'm sitting in this house, I can't go anywhere. It's really dated, or it's really this. I actually see there might be more of an opportunity after everyone kind of settles down, where they go, I've been living in this space that I don't really like.
Yeah.
And now I want to do something with it. And I could see the same thing with the backyard. And
absolutely.
Is that mainly, is it backyard? Is that your main business, or are you doing front yard too? Or
yeah, everything outside the shell of the house is our domain. But yeah, we're feeling the same thing. People are stuck home. They're looking out of their house, in our sense, they're looking around, they either hate the inside or they look out and they realize how much their backyard sucks. So they say, you know what, we need to do something. And again, that's why, design is so important. We can get that vision down first, and whether they pull the trigger on a phase to get started, whether it's the whole project, whether they wait and just get the design stuff down, doesn't matter. We have a plan, right? Let's get a plan laid out so that we can maximize, because let's face it, guys, COVID's not going away anytime soon. And if it's not that, it's going to be some other ridiculous thing they dream up. They keep sending out different types of things that are going to keep us in our house. This is something that's going to become the new normal. So we better enjoy our space at home, maximize it as much as possible, because we're going to be spending a lot more time here. And working from home, kids from school from home, this is going to become normal.
I think so too. Good point. So I don't, in all the times that we've talked, I don't think I've heard you mention many architects. Do you work with any architects, or is your background, your training, having been one, you kind of have a sour taste with them? What's up with that?
Yeah, so we don't work with a whole lot of architects, and it's not by choice. It just doesn't happen to work out that way sometimes. We work with a ton of structural engineers and civil engineers, those kinds of things to bring our projects together. But most of the time, we end up working with a client after they've already built their home. So as much as I would love more, architectural integration during that process, and how much more value we could bring as a team to the project, so the inside and the outside connect beautifully and seamlessly and awesome, that doesn't seem to be quite the consciousness yet. I know some people do that, but it's not as common as it should be, at least in my opinion, because there's so many times.
Architects not thinking about that and saying, hey, I should bring someone in, let's get the outside done, or are they ignoring that?
Yeah, I think that, in our area at least, most are thinking, architect-wise, and this is me saying this, I don't have constant contact with those guys, but, I think that they're like, look, I'm hired to do a design for them for the home. Let's get that done. Let's nail it. They do gorgeous work, right? Let's nail it, get it all done. And then when they want to move outside, that's somebody else's problem. There's not the necessity of thinking about that as part of the big holistic plan, because they're thinking about their part, everything inside the house, except for driveway, things like that, but everything inside the frame of the house, where we go beyond that. We are obviously from there out. So in an ideal world, a client would bring on an architect like yourself, and they'd also either with you in tandem or to the side, we'd work together as a team to figure out how the home translates into the environment.
Yeah,
that's a huge piece, at least for me on this side. How we're going to do a seamless transitions, and how we integrate with outside, and what side should we be planting trees on to maximize the amount of efficiency with the home. And like all of these kinds of things are things that should be thought about, but aren't, because one job ends here, another job starts there. The integration doesn't exist as much as it should.
And I wonder, from a standpoint of, does it come down to budget? The architect, he wants to get his design done, and he wants it done in the vision that he's worked on with the client. And if we start working with the outside, I'm stepping into his role, and I'm thinking, okay, do I really want him to spend $200,000 outside, and we have to compromise on the design of the house to get it all in? So it might be some selfishness to, let's get this project done, and the homeowner's not ready to do an exterior landscaping. They need a couple years to kind of recover before they're ready to do that. But you bring up a really good point, especially in California, where we're required for new homes to have net zero energy. And so that means all the energy required by the house has to be produced by the house, whether solar, wind, whatever. And the first thing you're trying to do is a tight house and use the solar part of it, wind and all that, to heat and cool your house. Having someone with that experience and say, hey, if we put these trees here, instead of guessing, which, we're using computer models to help us, but having someone with your experience to go through and say, hey, if we put these kind of trees here, we're going to have sunlight in the winter and we're going to block it in the summer, and we're going to keep the house cold and hot when we want it to, not at the whim of, nature and such.
I definitely agree that the integration with somebody outdoors, like a landscape architect, landscape designer, from an architect standpoint, I can see it complicating the situation, because you're exactly right. If a client has $1 million to spend on this house and you're suggesting, I should say in this case, I'm suggesting $200,000 outside in order to make it more efficient, all that stuff, that cuts your budget down to $800,000, right? Yeah. And it makes it a much tougher sell. So I understand exactly why architects keep it on their side and then they let it go. It's not everybody, right? But it's easier to do it that way because you can stay in your own lane. You don't have all these other things popping up, and next thing you know, it becomes so much more tough, convoluted. It becomes more difficult for everybody to work, and it really spreads out the focus. So I get why it's done, but there are so many times, we charge for our design work, as everyone should, right? Even in the landscape design build world. And when we do, we always guarantee our clients that we're going to be able to save them 2 or 3x over the design fee, just in good design, right? Yeah. And this is where things start to piss me off after a while, because architects, and not just architects in general, but site engineers, whoever's laying out these different systems, whether it's septic on site or water pipes into the house, or easements, whatever, placing the house, all these kinds of things, they don't think about anything more than their part. Right. Yeah. So if they have to get through stormwater management, they have to recover, just say it's 2,000 square foot of impervious surface. They put in a pit that covers 2,000 square foot of impervious surface, or maybe 2,100, right? And the next thing you know, we get in there, we're like, hey guys, look, you want to add a pool deck and patio back here? Crap, we have nothing left. Now we've got to charge you again in order to put a whole new system in. Yeah. When for maybe 30% more or 40% more, the other guy could have made a 3,000 square foot system for you that would have managed all of our water too. And everything would have been simpler, and we wouldn't have to tear all this stuff up, and they wouldn't have put their damn system right where we want to put the pool.
Yeah.
So it's that conversation pisses me off daily, because it's not had.
It's almost to the point where, you brought it up before, is getting a plan. So having an architect that has the foresight to say, hey, let's have a plan. They're eventually going to want this, 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 and this. What are those requirements? And getting the full plan from, okay, we're going to do the house phase 1, phase 2 is exterior. Let's do it all. Get it all laid out. That would be, even if they didn't do it, that seems to me to be the right way to go about it. And get some planning done. Okay, so fun question for you. What's the strangest thing that you've been asked to design in the backyard?
Strangest thing?
Or the wildest backyard, I'll give you that. Maybe it wasn't strange. Yeah. Someone asked
as far as wildest, we've done a lot of cool projects. We've been very blessed to have incredible clients, and everything we do is full custom, kind of like what you do, right? So no 2 projects are ever the same. But I guess instead of it being a cool project, there was a cool project that had an interesting twist to it when it came to managing what we just kind of talked about, right? So this project, the house was constructed back in 1996. In 2014, we went in to do a complete rehaul of the backyard, right? There was nothing back there. It was actually just an old stone terrace that was falling apart. Ripped that off. Put in a swimming pool, which at that point, for 3 months in this township's existence, swimming pools were considered permeable, right? Because they freeboard about 7 to 8 inches of water. So that engineer during that time said, hey, look, that's no big deal. It's not going to count against you. So let's just call it 800 square foot to our benefit. We went in and we did all the work. We got the permits that we needed for things. We didn't get the permits for the patio area around the pool because we figured, hey, you can take those away, right? They're mobile. So we didn't end up getting one for that. And the next thing you know, fast forward 4 years later, the township reaches out and says, hey, your neighbor, a neighbor up the street wants to do a project. They looked over at this guy's house and wondered how he got away with it because they can't build. They've hit a wall with the township. They can't build a project in their backyard. And they wondered how our client got away with it. So I'm like, oh, crap, what are you going to do, right? So the next thing you know, what we found out, long and short of this, it took almost 2 years to get this thing ironed out. But we ended up doing permeable pavers around the pool because it's the right thing to do. It didn't, from our side, it didn't cost us any more. And we knew that it was going to be a better solution for the client, which was a savings grace in all of this. But the township says to us back in 1996 that they allowed 13,000 square foot of impervious to be built on this site, which by code was only allowed 5,000. So that includes the house and the driveways. So they were already, 8,000 over to start with.
Wow.
Right? So when they put the pool in, the pool didn't count, so the township didn't care. But then when they saw everything else going in, they're like, what's going on here? So we ended up, like I said, for 2 years back and forth with them. They ended up letting us go because we put in permeable pavers and all that. And each house within that development now has to fight the same bullshit because they're only allowed 5,000 square foot. Every single house is over by at least 5,000 to 10,000 square foot. So anything you want to add to it, what's the point? They said, look, you got to manage all that stormwater. So I said, they own 2 acres. You want me to go in there and knock all the beautiful natural trees, of which we're only allowed to cut one down a year?
Exactly. Yeah.
To put in a retention pond.
Yeah. Trees are sacred.
Exactly. And we've done nothing but improve the permeability of water into the ground. I get that part. I get it. I'm a big fan of that. So why would we have to knock all these gorgeous oak trees down that have been around for hundreds of years just to put in a retention pond that's going to do nothing? Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So it's just.
You see, you have really strong feelings about that, Josh.
Not at all. It just blows my mind when things are so dumb like that. They just make no sense.
Yes, and we have quite a bit of that in California.
I can imagine. At least you got nicer weather.
That is true. So what is a typical misstep that homeowners do during design or construction with your part?
Okay, so typically what happens with clients is they try a couple different things, right? One of the missteps is they think they're going to be able to get it cheaper by just hiring a contractor to come in and build something for them, right? But they want to have integration with other structures or features. So they might hire the deck builder to come in and build a deck. Next year, they hire a patio guy to put a patio. Third year, they hire a pool guy to come in. The problem is after that third or fourth year, they look in their backyard and they don't like it because none of the pieces fit together. There was no holistic plan. Yeah. It was everybody's ideas. In this scenario, three different people's ideas. And they're trying to figure out why the hell the steps are on the wrong side of the deck and why the sun is on the other side of the property. And that's where the patio is, the pool's in the shade because they didn't plan for it. So some of the problems we find is that homeowners don't think about the value of having a great design right up front. Yeah. They think they're going to try to bring things together on their own, save some money, which they will save some money. But what's more important, having a few more dollars in your bank account or having no regret knowing that you have the absolute perfect space for your family, right? So often that happens and we go in and we have to either retool what's been done or have that hard conversation saying, 2 years ago you might have spent $20,000 on a patio, but we got to move half of it. It's in the wrong place. We can reuse the product, but it's not going to save you any money because I got to pay a guy to move it, put it on a pallet, turn around and put it back on the ground again. So the value you save from the product being used again is negated by the fact that there has to be more labor involved. So I hate seeing people live with regret. I hate seeing them look at me and be like, I wish I would have known. Yeah. I wish I would have known. That's why we do design first. Everything is design first in our focus because without a design, how do you know how all the pieces fit together? How do you know you're putting those steps to the right side? How do you know you have enough sun or enough shade? You don't. Yeah. Until that planning is done, right? So that's one big thing. Another thing is not planning for phases. If they do phases, like I mentioned in scenario one, if that deck goes in and they aren't planning for the pool, the next thing you know, or the patio goes in and they aren't planning for the pool, they're tearing half the patio up to get the conduits to the house to run power to that pool equipment. Yeah. So why aren't these things done? Why isn't drainage planned for? Right? When it comes to the deck or the patio or even the pool, they don't give a shit about that. All they care about is putting their patio in. Next thing you know, you got water problems, or that it's adding to another problem. You're creating problems. Where when you have a holistic design, all of those things are taken into consideration. So we know that all the water goes off the west side of the property because that's the downslope. We're going to catch all that water and run it that way. We know we got to swale everything above the pool and run it out that way too. We know that, and that might not even happen for 5 years, but we're already starting those conversations now. Yeah. Running all those conduits when it's cheap, when that patio is going in versus tearing half of it out to put those conduits in. There's things like that we find throughout, and that's how we're able to save 2 or 3x on the overall design cost of construction because of those things that we're thinking about. But so many don't think about it, Mike. They just don't think about it.
And the hundreds of thousands of dollars that are spent on remodels and additions and outdoor spaces and all that, spending 10% of that on getting a overall design plan.
Oh yeah.
Doesn't even have to be, it's not talking working drawings, but just an overall design for the house and exterior spaces. You can easily recoup 4 or 5 times that by doing it right the first time and not having to redo it over and over again. Especially with these big items like stormwater, drainage, and patios. I mean, everyone thinks, oh, just throw a patio in. Okay, yeah, and then you want to do something else, and it comes back out and it goes back in. What a waste!
It is. Another interesting thing is I've seen this happen a few times where people are buying brand new homes, spending $500,000 to $1 million, right, on a brand new beautiful home, and all to find out once they hire us to come in and take a look that the rear property line or the setbacks required by that rear property line are inches off their house.
Yeah,
because the home builder says, great, we can fit a bigger house on a smaller lot. We can sell it for more. I can get more volume out of this development. I get it. But then when I got to be the person to tell that homeowner, look, guys, you have to go for a variance to put a set of steps off your back door out to the backyard. And you will never be able to build something unless you're ready to fight City Hall on it.
Yeah, that
breaks my freaking heart because they have their mind set on this beautiful dream home and they get stuck with this. And then what do you do with it? They got to fight it. It's so sad.
So let's switch gears here because you've been doing outdoor living for a long time, since 5 years old. If you want to take it that far back, sheesh. But you're now getting into a new venture where you're going to leverage your business that you've been working on. Tell us a little bit about your new venture.
Absolutely, thank you. So after being in this industry for 24 years now, it's my 24th year, I've learned a lot. Most of it's from the street, right? I didn't go to a school to learn sales, no Ivy League education for that here. I learned it in the street. I learned it in the garden center. I learned it selling projects, right? But for so many years, I had a lot of big ideas and constantly kept hearing no from my clients, right? Too much money, bigger than we want to spend on this house. You're out of your mind, like these kinds of things, right? So I kind of got sick and tired of that after a while, and I figured there had to be a better way. So I started to read books. I started to go to seminars, but all of those things, you have to take that information and try to translate it into your world and then keep your fingers crossed that it's going to work, right? And then when it doesn't work, you throw it out. If it does work, you bring it back. It's like this whole back and forth. There's no confidence in it, right? There's no structure to it. So 2 years ago, I set out with a sales mentor of mine. And we created a system that I saw my wife, she has a very similar system. She's a chiropractor. I saw it working in her practice. And I said, there's got to be a way to take that type of an idea and bring it to my world, to the landscape design build professionals world, right? So we worked together for about 8 months, created this entire sales process. So what that did was it allowed me to increase my closing rates by an incredible amount, doubling sales within a year. It also allowed me to have a lot more free time because I was brooming clients that were just wasting my time. I was doing it on the phone. So I wasn't wasting tons of time going there and being told no and then coming home and being all pissed off because it was a Friday night and I missed my kid's soccer game, or a Saturday and missed a spelling bee, whatever, like all that's gone. So now we broom the clients. We're over 90% close rate on our clients we go out to meet, and before this process, I was more into the 70% range, which is by standards in our industry is between 35 and 50%. So basically 1 in 2, 1 in 3 that you'd actually close after going out and meeting with them. I said, there's got to be a better way to do this. Anyway, so implemented the process, year into it, doubled sales, fantastic. I said, you know what? I feel like it's my duty to bring this to my other brothers and sisters in this industry, because there's nothing being taught like this out there. Most people are just trying to figure it out, or going to a seminar, or going to, Tony Robbins going to Business Mastery and trying to come back and take the ideas and try to implement them into their business. But it's still like you're trying to translate a foreign language. It's tough there's no one-to-one, do A, get B kind of thing all the way through. There's no system that's designed just for you. So that's what I've taken on as my new venture called Yes Express. It's to bring, more yeses to our clients' mouths. It's to allow our design build professionals and contractors that jump on board with me here. I'm going to teach them how they can get control of their time, be able to bring clients that are going to waste their time, and do it over the phone. They're going to be able to increase their closing rates incredibly, and going to be able to do all of that with very little invested. So that's really the cool part about it. As long as they stick with the plan, as long as they stick with this, the layout that we have, and we're already up and teaching now. I'm starting to see a lot of interesting changes in people's businesses already with this, and it's so much fun to see. There's been a lot of very positive things coming, so I cannot wait to bring it to even more people in my industry, to be able to help them sell, build their confidence, and be able to help with those closing numbers and have them with their families more often, not out wasting time with clients that are just wasting their time.
That's great. Okay, so so what is it so you're going after landscape designers. What has been the response? You've been doing it for a few months?
Yes, it's been roughly 6 weeks now. We've gone live, and it's a startup, so we're rolling out here. I know what it's done for my business. I've seen others that I've worked before I launched, and to see how it's totally impacted their business and how they're thriving during COVID right now because of this in place with more time on their hands. It's incredible. So I'm not saying that because I want anybody to give a shit about that. I want them to be like, look, it's possible. It works. And then now starting to teach my class. It's all online, so it's super convenient. We do a lot of what's called role play throughout this process. So we get to get on and we get to do some role play back and forth and run a bunch of scenarios, in a safe environment, so that you're not figuring this all out on your first call with this, this is the place. You're trying to figure it out, and it's a $100,000 client, and you're going out there like, this is my first one, you know what I mean? And you blow the whole thing. So let's do this in a safe environment, throw a bunch of curveballs at you so you're ready, prepared. So when you go out there and you get that one client that you've been dreaming of for the last 15 years, that you can help them buy, right? This is not about selling. This is about helping people buy what they want to buy. This is not a transaction. This is a transformation. They're looking for a guide to take them from where they are to where they want to go. And why can't that be you?
I agree. Okay. Well, cool. Well, thank you very much. How do people get a hold of you in the great state of Pennsylvania?
I mean, a couple different ways. They can take a look if they're looking for the, our design build company. It's MasterPlan Outdoor Living, so they can take a look there. The website is mymasterplan.com, so you can take a look there. And as far as Yes Express, we have a group on Facebook. It's a great way to reach out. You can also email me if you have any questions, or if you want any more information about how we train. You can reach out to me at joshua@yes.express. So there's no .com in there. So it's joshua@yes.express. That'll get directly to me. Okay. I like simplicity and streamlining. You know that, Mike. So yeah. Well, and we can chat.
Well, fantastic. And I will certainly put those in the show notes and such so people can get a hold of you. Josh, I really appreciate you taking your time this morning to be with us and answer my questions. It sounds like things are going really well. It doesn't surprise me with the amount of energy that you always approach things, and I can't wait to see how it all blooms from here. Pun intended. So until next time. So thank you very much, sir. Any last thoughts before I sign off?
No, man, just be true to yourself. Be true to your craft, right? And just keep leading with love. It's there.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you very much. And that's it for this episode of Micheal Smith Architect Podcast.
Thank you for having me, Mike. It's been a pleasure.
So I hope you got a lot of great information on that. I really enjoyed talking to Josh, and it was really interesting to talk to someone who is doing both design and construction. You get a little different point of view on that, and it kind of opened my eyes to a little bit about planning for a new custom home, how we need to really start looking at from start to finish, and that's both inside and out, because what's happening, we talked about the stormwater and such issue, and that is something that is coming up more and more in California. It's coming up everywhere on how the property, the building divisions want the property to handle stormwater instead of just releasing it out into the street and such. And so more and more we're going to pay attention to that. And if the architects don't pay attention to more than just the house, we're going to be causing homeowners to spend more money on redesigning or providing new areas for that. And that's just one part of it. So it's kind of spurred me on to come up with how we do a complete plan. And we talk about what we're going to do outside and patios or decks and things like that. And maybe start designing stormwater and other things that are affected when we're doing the house. They may not put it in, but we're going to have a system large enough maybe to handle that. So that's something that's kind of stuck with me, and I'm going to make some changes in how I do my business. Okay, so now we're going to go on to Ask the Architect, our question that I usually see out on the internet, and I want to answer it for you. So today's question is, how long will my project take? And I'm taking that to mean the design, working drawings, permit approval, and construction. And I can only tell you in California, it'll be different in many places. And it's really, you can tell on what kind of approvals you need from planning departments and such. In California, there's a lot of agencies that we have to go through. And if you are on the coast, you're involved in the California Coastal Commission. If you're on the bluff, a beach, that comes into account. If you're in a sensitive area, you need archaeological reports. If you're in protected areas or you're in geological areas, there are those kind of reports. So in California, I would say if we're looking at let's say a large home remodeling project, your design probably about 1 to 4 months, depending on how quickly your architect is working and you're making decisions. Working drawings will probably take anywhere from 3 to 6 months, again, depending on workload of the architect and the consultants that are involved. And then permit approval, and I'm dropping out any planning approval. I'll add that in at the end. But permit, you're probably looking at, depending on backlog, anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks, so 2 to 3 months. And then construction, that can be all over the map, depending again on complexity of the design and the project itself. I would say you got to look at least 6 months and possibly up to 15 months, again, depending on how big the project is and such. So you wrap that all up, you're looking possibly 2 years to do a large home remodel project. If you're doing a custom home, you could actually be a little bit longer, because most custom homes, at least in San Luis Obispo County and California on the coast, require additional approvals, usually planning, and there's something called a minor use permit, and that alone can add 3 to 9 months onto the project. I can only go back to a custom home that it's under construction right now. It's in Paso Robles. It was in a planned subdivision. The homeowner who bought the lot bought it 4 years earlier. You would think in a subdivision it would be a no-brainer to build on it. Not the case. We still had to do an archaeological study. We had to do a geological study. There were trees on the site. All of that had to be addressed. We had to do a biological study also. And all of those things went into the approval of the minor use permit, and we ended up about 12 to 15 months because the level of detail we needed to do for both the biological study and the archaeological study. So that delayed the process. My client saw it as a delay because they wanted to really build and they thought they could just design the house and go. So it took about 2.5 years to get the permit approved, and they're now, here we are in 2020. We started in 2017. The house is under construction. So it does take a long time depending on where you are. I know when I was in the Central Valley, it goes a little quicker because we're not on the coast. There's not as much planning approvals in the Central Valley, depending on where you are. But things go a little quicker. But if you're on the coast, you better plan on a little longer time frame and such. So I hope that was helpful to you. As always, if you have any questions, please feel free to give me drop me a line at mike@michaelsmitharchitect.com, and we'll be happy to answer those questions for you on our podcast. Always looking for fresh questions and such. So let's see that. Yes, as you can see, we're still in shelter and home, which I'm really getting tired of it. I was kind of hoping to bring this podcast outside to get a little sun, but we had some rain today. Yes, we had rain in California in May. Kind of unusual, but that's what happened today. Always love to have rain, but we're getting a little tired of being inside and just the general mood that's out there. But in terms of building departments, it's actually, that side has been really good. We're able to submit online for new county projects and have plans delivered from our local printing company for the city of San Luis Obispo. And so that's been kind of nice not to drag around plans and such. So I'm really hoping that stays in place when we're get this all over with, which I hope, as I'm sure you do, it ends soon. So that's going to be our show today. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, let me know. I hope you subscribe to my podcast, and in the show notes we have all our links so you can connect with me, and hopefully have any questions. I'd love to help you out. And if you have any projects and you're in California, I can help you out too. So until next time, thanks.
Thank you for listening. Stay tuned for a new episode coming soon.